Yay. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Vanessa and Vilas here, and we are here to say hello and introduce the first live podcast for Blooped, which is a podcast about our upbringing in the Hare Krishna movement, what a cultic environment is like, how we got out of it. So we're basically going to be telling you our stories. We're going to be bringing guests on and going from there. What say you, Vilas?
And what topics are on the table?
Good question. So the topics we fleshed out a whole ton of topics for this. So the topics we're going to be covering are, again, like how we got involved in the Hare Krishna movement when we were children. We'll be telling our personal stories, and then beyond that is how people get connected to cults. What makes someone join a cult? Some people drink the Kool-Aid, some people don't. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about red flags to look out for when it comes to cults. If you want to obviously keep yourself out of a cult. What are some of the other topics that come to mind for you?
Well, I just loved your old Bloop tagline. You have to tell people what Bloop
Oh,
means,
yes.
but
So, yeah, basically we explore all things from periods to politics. We are very bold and brave in the topics that we talk about. We are not afraid to talk about the tough stuff. We're not afraid to talk about the hard stuff, the scary stuff. Um, because those are the things that need to be talked about so that we can create an environment where people aren't lugging around a ton of shame about how they grew up or what happened to them. We want to be able to have a safe place to talk about really important stuff and all the things that, you know, I guess were taboo at one point and we're kind of flipping the script on that taboo. A lot of what happens in a cult is abusive. It's scary. It's hard to talk about. So we're just being bold and brave here and inviting folks to share their stories and as we tell our own too.
yeah, and I think it's important to we come from in my lifetime, and Vanessa and I were just talking about favorite TV shows a minute ago, and you said I Love Lucy. Like, they didn't sleep in the same bed. Like, that's how taboo it was what people did behind doors. And
Right.
obviously we're past that now, and we need to talk about the things. I mean, the new conversation that's pretty popular among women our age is perimenopause and menopause, because nobody ever talked about it. It was just like this thing. And then I guess our generation got to a point where we were like, why aren't people talking about this? Why didn't my mother mention 10 years of hot flashes or 20 years of why aren't these things discussed? How do I know what's
Right.
coming if nobody ever talks about it? Why is it taboo? Why are periods taboo? It's just a fact. Anyway, so
Exactly.
this type of thing is a direct consequence of living in the patriarchy and seeing that anything that is related to a woman is like, well, keep it in the kitchen.
Hmm.
And we want to open up the dialogue to every topic that is important to women, women's lives, women's health, survivors. Create a space where women, whether they can identify themselves as a survivor or not, to just be able to open up and feel less alone in whatever the minutia of their daily life is,
Exactly.
and go, oh, you had the same experience. Oh, thanks for letting me know, because now I don't feel like I'm some sort of a weird alien.
Yeah.
Or because the more you talk to people about stuff, the more you're like, oh, I'm not weird, I'm not alone, I'm not unique in my experience. This is
Hmm.
something that people experience, and it's fair. And Vanessa, tell people what your background, your passion is, and how you want to bring joy and alchemize people's pain.
Yeah. Well, joy to me is very natural. And my father always told me, like, you had such a unique perspective and you were always laughing as a kid. And sometimes I think like, okay, so God or whoever said, okay, here's a joyful little person. I'm gonna throw all this really weird stuff at her and like see what happens. And so I think for me, the reason I've chosen the career I've chosen and even this podcast and being a community builder is that I have learned that no matter what the hardships are in life, the joy can coexist with pain. I do not ever think I'm going to get rid of all the pain that I have carried. The way you and I grew up, so Vilas and I grew up in the Hare Krishna movement, and as joyful as Krishna was, and as some of those stories were as not joyful as we grew up. Right? We were constantly being told to, we're too loud, we're too this, don't be, be quiet, don't do, cover your head. Like there were so many limitations to our expression. And I'm just an artist by nature. I'm an alchemist by nature. And I've learned to take all that pain and all those limitations and stick them up the, what, of I'm going to be joyful anyways. Like, okay, I've had insane amount of pain in my life, but I also have always been able to find my humor and live right alongside it. So that's what I do. I basically bring play. I'm an improv consultant and a playologist. And that means that I work with people on their mindset around joy and play. I bring workshops to you. We do all kinds of fun stuff, but it's a way to continually activate your play drive and your capacity for joy so that no matter what comes at you, you can always return to that place and activate it yourself. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, when you said, you have your humor, despite all of that, I feel like I have my humor from more of a sardonic perspective, where the reason that I have to laugh is because otherwise I'm going to cry. So
I
rather than
completely get that too.
that's the better option. Like, let me just make a funny joke about it, and then we can all laugh. Ah, it's so funny. But it's comedy slash tragedy mixed together. No, I love the fact that we can laugh through our pain. Um, and of course, there's pain that's not laughable, and um, we're talking about deep trauma. We're talking about, and I wanted to create a space for survivors. So back in the day, I
Yes.
remember, Vanessa, it was probably more than 10 years ago that you were doing Girl Side Chat, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it was 20 I started Girl Side Chats in 2015.
Yeah. And I remember because we had that reunion, and then you were talking about that, and I was so attracted to that concept. And I just had this vision of a whole bunch of girls sitting around a fire and just sharing and just talking about our experiences and feeling not so alone in our worlds where we're all together, we're all um sharing this space, and at the same time we feel so isolated and so that our experiences are only ours. And the thing is that we're extremely unique. Each and every one of us is completely a unique being, but our experiences are shared.
Yeah.
I might have this mother and father, you have a different mother and father, so you had a different experience, the nature versus nurture concept. But each of our experiences and how we react to it are unique. And so sometimes finding people who have experienced trauma and they don't know how to verbalize it. They don't know if they're allowed to say the things out loud. And I got to a point that really came to a head recently, where we got this new administration, and I was like, all right, just put your head down, do your job, you know, survive. And I'm just tired of treading water and surviving. I've been doing that my whole life, and I do it well. I'm really good at surviving. But I don't want to. I want to make sure that the next person behind me is able to thrive better because I figured out the link where I say, I had this experience and I've survived it. You are not alone. And then maybe the next person won't take, I'm 56. So maybe they won't take, 20 years of their life trying to figure out how and who to be. And they'll be like, okay, I can get there. I've heard this. I've got like the Melanie with the We Don't Care, the I Don't Care Club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, it's just a little amazing, beautiful movement that suddenly made a whole bunch of women feel less alone and
Exactly.
seen and heard. And like,
Yes.
oh my God, I had that experience. I lived that experience.
Ah,
So I think it's really important to let people know that their experiences are unique to them, but they're not alone in them.
right.
And there
There's some
are
of that
people.
universal there's a universal pain, like abandonment is kind of a very kind of a universal, sadly, a universal concept. Right. There's some of these things that we can, even though it's very unique and different, how things happened, that they happened is not that unique. And so we can come together and have a shared space and talk about all the bold, big, scary stuff because there's no reason for any of us to carry shame. I mean, you and I have been through a lot. And as you guys, as for whoever's listening right now, we'll be sharing our personal story about being in the Hare Krishna movement, what that was like, inclusive of child marriage, inclusive of some really heavy stuff. And we want to create a place where we can talk about these things freely, openly, and really help other women know that you're not alone in your experience. It may be in the details, but in the overall picture, we are here in this together. And the only way that we're going to get through this is by bringing it out into the open, talking about it, sharing the experience, but also sharing the love and knowing that you can actually heal from the pain. We don't have to live with this and be smushed by it for the rest of our lives.
You don't have to shove it down. You don't have to eat it. You don't have to tuck it away. You don't have to just deal with it. I mean, motherhood is challenging, and the stigma around choosing motherhood or not choosing motherhood, or the fact that it's a choice, and all of that is,
Mhm.
it's a dialogue that needs to happen. I mean, we
Yeah.
need to acknowledge that girls are not born and bred just to exist, um,
Breed.
to be an oven, to breed, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean,
I know
back
you and I have some really passionate opinions about all of that, and we are so excited to, like, dive into this and have a place and a forum for it. And also, like, the things like you had said, at the beginning, like, we should be able to talk about periods. Of course we should. It's literally one of the mechanisms through every human being on the planet is affected by in some way. And, like, it's not it shouldn't be a mystery, and it shouldn't be something that anyone carries shame around, so
Well, shame is another interesting topic that I love to delve into because, women typically want to carry shame, whether it's for themselves or to hide it from someone else, or to like it's kind of a little bit of a nurture thing where, we don't want anybody to be shamed, but we take the shame on. Like, for instance, surviving rape or surviving child marriage in my case, and surviving all of the different atrocities that happened to us as children, where at some point, I don't know about you, Vanessa, but for years I was ashamed to talk about it. I was ashamed that I come from ISKCON. I was ashamed that I was married when I was a child. I'm ashamed, or I was ashamed that I was raped. And it took me a while to look at that shame and go, wait, that doesn't belong to me.
yeah.
That's not mine. I didn't do that. I never did any of the things that were shameful that happened to me. But shame is there nonetheless. And because the thing happened to me that I have to live with, I carry that shame, and it's been a struggle to say it's time to release the shame. It's time to let it go.
Yeah.
And it's actually more insidious than that. We have
It
to
is.
actually
Yeah.
assign the shame to the appropriate people, and we
We do.
don't.
We do. And here's what I want to add to that, because you're touching on something really important. As women, we have all these big, heavy experiences, and traditionally, we haven't had healthy places to go to, and we haven't had people who had our backs. So we have lugged around shame like it was a badge of honor, right? And we don't need to do that anymore. You are you don't have to live as if you are entitled to your shame. Um, we can heal and let it go. And dang it, I just forgot my thought, but I felt like it was a good one. Um, I'll
We
come
were
back to
right
it.
there.
I know, I was right there. I was like, "Ooh." We'll come back to it. But I think to your point, it's like the more we talk about this, the more we air it out. It's just like if you have a room that stinks, right? If someone lets out a big fart or something and the room is super stinky, you got to open the windows. You got to let some cross breeze in there. You got to, open the windows and the doors and light some incense. So I'm not talking about bypassing anything, but I'm saying we have to air out what we have been holding on to, what stinks, what's gone sour, what's no good, and air it out. And we do that with each other. I mean, we do that as girlfriends, anyways. When you and I sit and talk, I mean, when we're just like chit chatting about stuff, I always walk away feeling like we just let a big load off,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Well, I also think what we allow, we get used to. So
Yeah.
if you didn't open that window and open that door, we're going to sit there in that stink and we're just going to get used to it. And we're going to be like, well, I guess this is what my life smells like now.
And that's
And
exactly to your point. I just remembered. Sorry to jump in real quick, but that to right there is key. Is that we've started to identify with shame. We've started to identify as the person not who carries shame as something separate, but as a shameful person. And when we have the identity of that, it's very, very hard to disconnect from.
right. And so rather than just saying, oh, let it go, I'm saying reassign it.
Yes.
Look at it in the face and say, actually, this belongs here. Look
Mhm.
at what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. And
Yeah.
ask yourself, do I need to feel this way? Is
Yeah.
this my shame? Is this my fault? Did I do anything to attract this behavior? Did, is this on me?
Yeah.
And lighten up because we take on so much. We take on the shame of our parents, the shame of our children, the whatever the traumas and dramas of all of the generations, and we just eat it. And then
Yeah.
we're supposed to keep going and keep going, but also
Yeah.
still, better keep that house clean and keep that food cooked and keep those children happy and keep doing all the things, but also, own that shame. And it's like at some point we have to look at ourselves and rise to a higher level for ourselves
Yeah.
and acknowledge that we are far more than the things that happen to us and certainly far more than the horrible negative things that have happened to
Of
us.
course.
We are far more than whoever our children became. We are far more than whatever our parents did to us
Yes.
or or
Exactly.
or were. And
Yeah.
it's critical to find ourselves in a place where we can accept that the life we want can be created, the life we deserve can be created.
Yeah.
Bridget's doing a whole bunch of work on another state has sponsored a bill to end child marriage, and so she's doing a whole bunch of research on it and doing
Okay.
direct emails to each one of them to say, hey, can you co-sponsor this? Can we need to get this passed? And
So
she sent.
let's just take a quick time out.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's listening, we want to just kind of jump in and say she just introduced this idea of child marriage. And this is something that Vilas is really passionate about. One of her missions, and I can let you speak for it for yourself, is because it's what she experienced in her teen years in the Hare Krishna movement, is very passionate about ending childhood marriage in the US. I mean, I know and people are probably like, there's child marriage in the US.
Yeah, it's
But there
shocking.
is. There is. And so basically today we're just kind of covering a few things that we're going to be talking about and what our grand mission is. But a big part of Velas's platform is ending childhood marriage. So she's talking about one of our friends who, if you want to just kind of clarify what that bill is and what she's doing, that would be amazing.
So just for a brief history, there was it was not maybe 10 years ago that the first state in the United States banned child marriage.
The first,
The
10 years ago?
first state 10 years ago. We are now at 16 states. DC, I testified in DC in October of 2024. They passed it very quickly. Kudos to DC. And we have another state that has passed, but we're at 16 right now. We have 34 more states to go.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Colorado heard a testimony. There was somebody that stood up and said, "No, I think it should be allowed." There are
Childhood
people.
marriage?
There are people out there that think that there is nothing wrong with it, and
Wow. But the childhood marriage only goes for girls, right? It's older men and marrying younger girls.
well, I mean, legally, it's both ways, but generally, yeah, that's what we're finding. I mean, there is the occasional 16-year-old girl, 17-year-old boy that want to run off and get married and they need the permission of their parents, but
Yeah.
that's, that's not the norm. The norm is an older man marrying a younger child. Under 18 is a child,
Yes,
period, end
the
of story.
child. Yes.
So right now we have Oklahoma and Colorado that are looking at bills to end child marriage, and yeah, that is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and most of my work around this podcast, my book, all of it is about ending child marriage in the United States. It is recognized um, internationally as human rights abuse.
Yeah.
So everybody, all countries have agreed, yep, it's wrong. It's just a matter of, well, we don't really want to change it yet because we don't value girls' lives. I
Right.
mean,
Well, it sounds like it's protecting, they think that it's protecting something, right? And so it's just abhorrent. It should just be a flat out, like, hard no, right? But it makes
so my argument usually in the case of somebody saying, well, my mom was 15, she got pregnant with me, married my dad, and I'm really glad that that could happen. And I'm like, okay, so because there's a drunk person uh, who manages to make it home, drive home super drunk, and they get home alive, doesn't mean that drinking and driving should be legal, because normally we look at the broader picture and we make laws that protect the most people, and drinking and driving is dangerous. And so when we're making laws, that's one of the things that has to come into consideration for what happens to girls who are married, who can't legally actually sign a contract, they can't rent an apartment,
right.
they can't drink, they can't vote, they can't
So
run.
being able to be married completely contradicts with the idea of being 18, being an adult at 18. They don't even still have their rights to be an adult until they turn 18.
Correct.
So it's very complicated. So yeah, I mean, here's where I love that you and I are teaming up right now, is that we're going to be able to, this is what I meant by like big hard topics. We're going to be able to cover all of these topics. And in the next week or two, you're going to hear Velas's personal story and hear more about what actually drove her to this being her life mission, which I think is amazing and generous that you're willing to share the story. I mean, that it's time to share the story, of course. And it'll come alongside the book that you're writing.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, and I don't know, educate us. Like I didn't know. I had my own child almost bride nonsense at 11, but that's a whole nother story.
We're gonna hear
Uh,
it. We're gonna
yeah,
hear all the stories.
you're gonna hear all the stories. I laugh at things now just because they're so fucking ridiculous
Yeah.
that that's where a lot of my humor comes from. So if you guys ever hear me see me laughing, which you will a lot, it's just because it's so absurd and this far away. And after so much healing, it's just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe that actually happened. And then thank God for people like Vilas and some of the women she's working with to kind of to end, at least hopefully end this level of abuse.
Well, it's hard for me because I do have some extreme views, and every once in a while I'll wake up and I'm like, am I living in the wrong time? Like, is this the wrong time for me? Because why are we so archaic? Why do we
Yeah.
treat women the way we do? Why do women take their husband's name because they're a literal possession of that man? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I no longer have my own identity. Let me drop that name. Let me take my husband's name. It's one of my least favorite things.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it's
But I want to interject really quick and say that I've been thinking about something that kind of goes along with what you're saying. For 200, almost 300,000 years, humans have been living a certain way, pretty archaic. Only in the last, what, in the 1400s, we got the printing press. In the, what did we get in the 1700s? Or at least like 17, 1800s, we got electricity. Like, I don't know. When you think about
we're
the
slow.
culture of humanity, we are infantile and ridiculous.
So
Just
I am
because
living in the wrong time. Thank you very much.
yeah, just because we have cars and tubes that can fly in outer space does not mean we have evolved as consciousness, as humans in the way we think. We are still archaic in that part. Our brain has not evolved. A lot of other stuff externally has, but and so I think that that's kind of hard because you're right. This should be over. We should be on to something new, but there's something in the human psyche that is very slow and very dark at times and hasn't evolved out of its caveman.
Well, I think humans get in a comfort zone and they're like, well, it's just always been like this. Let's just leave it like this. Let's not try anything new. But what happens is you only change when the situation you're in is no longer bearable. And I think that is a slightly flawed methodology. I think we should look at whatever the other better option is and try it.
Yeah.
Even if we're not horribly uncomfortable with the status quo. Like if whatever we're doing it's working all right, but is it working optimally? Is this the life you want? Is this the vision you had? Or is
Mhm.
it just good enough? And I'm not
Yeah.
trying to say only pursue perfection. Like I'm this is not perfection. This is us jumping in and getting this off the ground because we've been talking about it for months.
Yeah.
So it's not, if we waited until we had perfection, we it would be another 6 months where we were like,
Yeah.
she's on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast and well, our timing and this and that. We could have thousands of excuses, but no, let's open it up. Let's try it. That's the point. Like, let's try it. Let's try to see
Evolving.
if let's try to evolve and let's not be afraid. And I am not interested in blame on any level when it comes to any part of my life because I don't find that useful.
Yeah.
And so earlier when I was saying, we should apply the shame, the blame where it belongs, that's very specific to people who cause you harm.
Well,
And
you're
then
saying hold them accountable, which is
very hard because I will never see justice for me. So at
yeah,
least I can assign the blame and shame where it belongs,
where
even
yeah.
though there will be no justice in my case. It's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
Because why do we have time limits on when people can file a complaint? Like
Yeah.
because women's issues don't matter. So the more we talk about it, maybe the more it will matter. Maybe more women will stand up and say, "Oh, this is important
Yes.
and we should be talking about this."
Well, here's
And
the beauty of our current evolution with electronics is that like no other time in history have the tribes been able to hear each other and communicate like this and really have no barrier to each other. We know and can learn and talk with women in China and in Russia. We can talk with people in rural India. Now we can evolve. Now we can change because we have a broader, more connected world. And I think that is ultimately what will spur change, is because now we know we're not alone. Now we know there's other women, and it doesn't matter what culture you grew up in. It doesn't matter what religion you grew up in. Now we have a connection, and we're developing a collective voice, and we never had that before. So we didn't even know to grow. We didn't even know to do something different.
And it wasn't until maybe a year or two ago when a friend of mine who wrote a book, Uncultured, when she said, stop listening to white men. She's like, it's not that there's anything wrong with them, and it's not that they don't have anything valuable to say. It's just that they've been talking for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's
Yes,
time to give other people voices. It's
yes,
time to listen to the other people who have been talking.
yes.
And I made a flippant comment. I was on a podcast yesterday guesting, and I was like, yeah, maybe it's time for some of the white men to hand off their work to some very deserving women so that they can get published just like women used to have to do, and get their stuff published in the name of men. It's like,
Yeah,
well, I was looking at a piece of art at a store the other day, and I was like, oh, I love this. This is really cool. And it said like Jim Davis on the bottom, and I was like, darn it. And I'm not trying to exclude them, but I'm
yeah,
also trying to highlight people who have had no voice for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I'll tell you what all of us grew up in, every single last one of them: China, Russia, rural India. Every single last one of us has grown up in the patriarchy.
yeah.
And again, not demonizing. I'm not a
Well,
misogynist. I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but
yeah,
I am trying to lift certain voices and lift people who have not had a chance to speak, who have not, and myself. I have
yeah,
kept my mouth shut for, I am 56, so a half a century. I have been like, this little voice to my little circle. Everybody knows my story, but nobody knows my story. So I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm coming out again. I'm coming out. Um, all over again. And it does take a certain amount of vulnerability and to be brave and put yourself out there. But as I keep saying, like, if I can save one person, if one person can benefit in
hmm,
some way from my experiences, then I'll take it. I
yes,
don't I don't mind. It's already happened. I'm
yeah,
already paying the price of the deeds.
yes,
But if there's something that I say, or that I can, put my hand out and be like, let me help you up. Um, that is um, my duty. And I don't mean it as like my
yeah.
responsibility, but
I get that.
my soul says, don't be quiet. Don't let, okay. I'll tell you a really quick story. A week or so ago, I was driving to an appointment. It was 6 o'clock at night. It was very dark, and we've had this snow and ice frozen stuff for weeks now. And a deer jumped into my car. And so a deer hit me. I know it's been a rough couple weeks. And I was completely shaken because I just had an accident. But I wanted to know that that deer was gonna be alive. I was really concerned for the deer. I did not stop the car. There was a two-lane road. There was nowhere to pull over, nothing. So I was like, "All right, just go home. Get your." I called my client and I was like, "I'm on my way." And he goes, "How about if you go home?" And I was like, Good plan." So I came home, and I was really, really shaken up, and I was concerned for the deer. But then I started to think, and this is too much, I'm an overthinker, but I was like, what if the deer ended up in the road and then I caused, by my actions, a car to then hit it and have a worse accident than I had? I was still driving. So I was just thinking, like, universally about everything, all of the actions that happened in that moment. I was like, was I supposed to stop and make sure that the deer wasn't injured in the road? And and then what?
But I think that's normal. I think anybody would have, if you have a conscience and a heart, those are the things you're gonna be thinking about, right? It's not like you're just
Yeah, but I was also shaking, and I was like, go home.
That's scary.
But it was super scary, but, like, I don't know that everybody thinks about the consequence of the next person, especially when you have just experienced, like, a jarring,
Yeah.
um, e uh, accident that you should be concerned about is the deer in the road, will somebody else be injured?
Right.
And, trying to think, sure, I say this to my friends all the time, like, don't forget that, you have to put the oxygen mask on your own face before you can help children and elderly. Take care of
Yeah, of
yourself.
course.
If you can't breathe, you can't help them.
Yeah.
So I know, and I'm the worst at listening to my own advice because now I'm just like worried about everybody else on the road that I don't know and the poor deer. And so, yeah, I mean, it's harder for me to take care of myself than it is for me to worry about you. I can worry about your, I'll monitor your face and see that we're not getting into rough zones that are triggering you, but I don't worry about me. I'll just, so it's hard. It's hard to actively be conscious of everybody's um emotions, everybody's trauma, all of the possible trigger warnings, and so being able to have these dialogues, being able to have conversations about things that we do need to normalize in the same
Yeah.
way that, we let the air out, we also need to normalize talking about things that
Yep.
are real. They're just real.
They're
It's not
real.
it's not
Yeah.
taboo, you
Well,
know?
and we get together as girlfriends and we talk about things, but when we wanted to do like a little bit of a different platform here for this Blooped podcast, which is really just a conversation with women about women. Men are welcome to chime in. We grew up with a lot of the men that we grew up with had terrible experiences also. So abuse also is not relegated to women. And hard things aren't relegated only to women. We are women focused, but we have a lot of great guy friends. And we also know that they have suffered. But this is a space for us to explore our stories, your stories. We would love to hear from our listeners about, if you grew up in a cult, if you've dealt with shame, if you've dealt with escaping child bridism. I mean, I don't know, whatever you've dealt with, we would love to connect with you because our goal is to really create a sense of liberation and freedom in our listenership. And that comes from letting go of a lot of stuff, being in safe places where you can talk about things and walk away feeling like you've been heard and seen and you're loved and celebrated no matter what you've been through. And so we just thank you for everything you are sharing, Vilas, because it is crucial for all of our healing and for us to evolve, is to take advantage of the technology and the spaces that we have to connect, to share, and to get this stuff out there. And in the coming weeks, we hope all of you who've joined us right now continue to join us, talk to your friends, invite them, come hang out with us. Sometimes it'll be funny, sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it's going to be really hard and not very cool to listen to. But that's all part of becoming free. We're letting the stuff go.
Yeah, and before we got on here, we were talking, and I said, um, what do you want to inspire in people? And Vanessa said, I wanna, I wanna, make them feel free. I want women to feel free and not oppressed. And my answer was that I want women to feel less alone. And and that may be a reflection of us, where for so long I felt so alone and so different, so strange, and you might have felt like you were stuck or
Oh,
whatever. But
yeah, that's been the nemesis. My kryptonite is the feeling of just being trapped. And I'm not anymore. And I genuinely don't feel trapped in my thoughts, my space, but I was as a kid. I was deeply trapped and you were deeply alone. And so we're here to, what is it, Ram Dass? You guys know this guy, Ram Dass, right? He said, we're all just here to walk each other home. And ultimately, I think that's what we're doing.
and we need to get more into that. We need to get out of ourselves, and even though, we have social media and we feel connected to others by social media, there's still a disconnect there. And I don't think some people know how to find the algorithm that makes them feel like, "Oh, I'm not in a bubble. I'm still aware of the world, but also I feel seen and heard and
Yep.
connected with people. Um, and maybe when you feel connected and free and less alone, maybe that does make you softer around the edges and kinder, and we can make a better world because we don't feel so angry and alone. We can say hi to the stranger in the parking lot at the grocery store, and we can, tell her she's wearing a cute shirt or whatever,
Yeah, without feeling like it's
like
you
you're weird. You're
like
like,
weird.
"Ah, it's fine. I
Yes,
wanna connect with this person. I want everybody
y
to feel free. So, hey, you look great today." Stuff like that.
exactly. I mean, yeah, I think that we're on a good mission, and I hope that people join us and come hang out with us. We'll be doing this once a week. Every week we'll have a different topic. We'll be telling different stories. We'll invite different guests on. Love to hear your guys' stories. So please come hang out with us. I have a pizza waiting for me. My pizza is my best friend tonight, and they're waiting to hang out and have some deep connection.
I was doing, the Was I in a Cult podcast, for 4 hours this afternoon, and then
Yes.
I crammed before I jumped on here with you, I grabbed a bunch of, leftover Indian food that I had in the fridge, and, so I already ate, but I'm
Okay,
later than
y'all,
you.
just real quick, Vilas is an amazing cook.
Oh, well,
She makes really fantastic Indian food. So one day when we all get together in person,
we'll all
we
be
will
here eating food.
beg her and plead with her to make us something yummy.
I do love cooking. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
so it is what time is it your time? It's 8:05 here.
It's 6:05 here, and I
Okay.
have a
You're in
boyfriend.
Arizona.
Yep, Arizona. I have a boyfriend and his mom over there calling me in for dinner. So,
Alright. Awesome. Thanks for jumping on here with me. This is great.
oh my gosh, thank you. You guys, Jennifer, Bud, who else joined us?
Jan.
Jan. Thank
Hi,
you.
Jan. Hi,
Are those your
Jan.
friends, Celeste?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. Well, I would love to hear, maybe they can connect with you and tell you
Yeah.
what they think about all of this. But we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and share it with your friends and come back next week. We'll let you know when we have some organization to like our dates and time. And
Yeah. You're still on West Coast and
I'm in Central, or I'm on Mountain
you're in
time.
Arizona, right?
I'm in Arizona time, and I'll be
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Savannah in 2 weeks. But
Oh, you're going back to Savannah? Okay.
yep.
Alright. I'll be here in Maryland.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to chat with you again. And thanks everybody for listening and hanging out with us tonight.
Awesome. Well, talk to you later. Bye, guys.
See ya.